Welcome into a live edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break on this Tuesday, where we have not one, not two, five WNBA games today with a lot of moving parts. Final week of the regular season, so some really strong betting angles in my estimation. This is when you really want to pounce because there's softness in the market. So, welcome in. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper. Albert, good to be with you, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a full slate, like you mentioned, and I think a lot of those spots are strong spots that you are alluding to is because of the playoff race, or the lack of playoff race, if you will. So I'm excited to dive into it and cash a couple bets tonight.
Yeah, really interesting. We've seen some line movement on a couple games and some not so much. Some totals have moved, which is all, normal. Let's start in Washington, D.C., where one team is going to be playing the final game of the regular season. They're going to hang it up off season, which will be, somewhat interesting given the collective bargaining agreement, potential lockout. That's the Mystics, who've been just on a tailspin like no other. And then you have New York, which is locked into the 5 seed. So the Liberty will be the 5 seed when the playoffs begin on Sunday, but they're trying to find their groove, which they have lost of recently. That 11-0 start feels like a thing of the past,
Mhm.
distant memory. Now, Sabrina Ionescu is expected to play. Now, minutes, we're not really sure, but the Liberty are 14.5-point home favorites in this home finale for New York. Now they're obviously going to have a home game in the playoffs, but total 157, that's come down a little bit. So let's talk. Let's start with the Mystics perspective. This is a team that has shown only some effort the last few games. They got blown out by 20 something in Indiana in their last game. So this is the regular season finale. They're done. Senioritis perhaps kicking in. What role does that factor into your handicap, the last regular season game?
This game is tough for me, and it's interesting that you chose this one first, because I mean both teams from an ATS perspective have been struggling, right? We know Washington; they've been on a tailspin, 9 straight losses. I think they've only covered 3 of those games in those 9 games. So they're definitely playing way below expectations. And then New York Liberty, who everyone thinks is a championship caliber team. They've kind of been struggling to the finish line. 3-7 ATS in the last 10. Sure, there's been a lot of injuries. I think the most telling one is their offense. If you look at their over under in the last 10 games, only one game has hit the over. So that means their
Mm.
offense is struggling. It's a stay away from me. I don't know if there's any angles. I would love to hear your perspective, but I don't think I'm going to touch this game with a 10-foot pole, Doug.
Why not the under then, if that's the trend of everything?
Last game of the regular season, I don't know if these guys are going to be trying on defense. We do
Mhm.
know like there's great shooters, right? If these players are getting open threes, you would think that professional players are going to be able to make them. I don't know. It's a scary proposition to do another under when it's been 1-8-1 in last 10.
What role does the Liberty already having their playoff seed locked in, and they're really just worried about, finding the right groove? I think they're undefeated with that front court intact, right? With Jonquel, Breanna Stewart, and,
Houston.
there's a third one, Mieselman, yeah, so and then again, they started 11-0. Sabrina is gonna be on a minutes count, I would assume. I think she had a toe injury, so nothing too severe, and it's 14.5, but, I see, I lean to the Liberty here, but to your point, the Mystics could play loose and free and easy.
And the scary thing is, even though Sabrina Ionesco is back and on a minutes restriction, we don't know what shape she's in, right? She wasn't in the greatest of shapes even before this injury. She played so many heavy minutes as when Stewie was out. We don't know if she's in, basketball shape. I think this is more of let me play the last game of this meaningless, last game of the season and try to get into game shape and get ready for the playoffs. So I don't think she's going to be like looking to run any big sets or big important sets, if you will. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's Liberty or nothing at all. I would be on the under there. It's on the screen right now. Sabrina over 14 and a half points minus 127. If you have an outlet that allows you to bet the under, I think that's a good look, in my opinion. But yeah, What are some of your other thoughts on or the reasons why for Liberty today?
Well, I think that second unit is pretty good, and they're gonna play hard, right? They're trying to like they killed the was it the Mystics? I think they played recently where that second unit was the one who blew them out. And that's I think the one that was really like, man, this Mystics team stinks. Now they'll play hard once in a while, but I think they did, yeah, they blew them out by 26, and that was a game where I think John Quell and Sabrina were scratches,
Mm,
and they still blew them out in the second half. They really pulled away. So I actually think when reserves play, they're going to play harder on defense. This team's in playoff mode in a lot of ways. So I would look to the under. I think this Mystics team has one foot out the door. How about this? Their over under for win total was 15.5. They got their 16th like a month ago, and then they haven't won since. So anybody who had the under is probably kicking themselves, just like how close they were, because they started like 3-1, and it was just ridiculous. They're like, "What's going on with this team?"
that's gotta be one
Um,
of the most brutal beats ever, right? Because 'Cause they're
yeah,
on a
I had the
9-game
under. I
losing
had the
streak.
under.
Man, but so there's arguments for the other side for the I mean, if you wanna dive deeper into this game, right? So Liberty, they're pretty much entrenched into 5, correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
they are. It's locked in. It's locked
Yeah,
in.
so they have been playing a little bit better. To me, it's their offense. Like, I wanna see a little more, innovation. I wanna see a little more speed. I think it's obviously, they're gonna attack with their three-headed monster and their size inside, but I don't know, when they get into the playoffs, I don't like their chances.
All right, I'm going to pull the trigger here because I do think their speed is lacking, and they they just take too many contested shots. Like it's like a shoot around. They're not really the ball doesn't pop to like an open shot. Now Sabrina returning could change things because she draws so much attention. But I'm going to play the under 157 here. I think the Mystics are just going to be. I mean, if you're Sydney Johnson, you're not going to run Sonia Citron into the ground here. It's already most games of any teams play this season obviously went up to 44 games. It was 40 last year. There's no need to play these rookies, and Sutton's okay, but this team just doesn't have the right offensive sort of pop that when Sykes was there. So now they may give up points, and the Liberty may bomb a bunch of threes, but I have to take the under here. I'm also looking at the team total for the Mystics. That's probably the best bet, but it's getting pretty low, man. It's 70.5. That's low for a team that can shoot threes.
I mean,
So I have to
in their previous game against the Fever, I think they only had 27 in that second half. It was a horrid display of offense. So I still think the team total under is gonna get there even though it's so low.
yeah, I mean they've gone, but they needed that to get to 65. And they've had 69, 78, which was a crazy final 2 minutes aside, before that 62, 63. All right, I'll pull the trigger on the under 70.5 as well. So we'll go under 70.5. Yeah, I mean, I don't see myself losing both of those. Like, I don't think both teams are gonna be in a track meet. I just felt like the under 70.5 give me a little protection in case Sabrina and company go off shooting the three against a bad Mystics defense. So I'll play both of those under 157 and under 70.5. Just a reminder, if you like what you hear on our show, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips, and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. It really is good stuff. So I encourage everyone to check it out. Um, and we got some comments here in the comment section. Encourage everyone to get involved. A is one of our loyal audience members, just the letter A. Hi, both of you. I took the Sun first half plus 7.5 yesterday. Looking forward to today's slate. So good on A for getting the W with the Sun first half. They play tomorrow, so keep an eye on that game. But let's go to you mentioned the Fever out, Albert. It's their home finale
Mhm.
of the regular season. They've already clinched a playoff berth. They are the sixth or the seventh seed. A couple things need to play out with the Valkyries, but they are guaranteed to miss the Lynx, who have the number one seed locked up. No Nafisa Collier tonight. No Dejanay Carrington. So the Lynx overnight were 3-point favorites. They're now 2-point favorites. 164. So this over-under's come up a little bit. Given the circumstances, again, Lynx already locked in the one seed, no fee. And then Indiana sort of competing for the 6 or the 7 seed, but they're focused on health given just how doomed of injuries they are. They did secure a playoff berth in their last game. You mentioned that Mystics game. So maybe a flat spot. So which team do you expect to play with more effort and attention to detail?
Well, I think the Fever will play with more effort, but I'm not gonna undervalue the system that Minnesota runs. Like, it doesn't matter who's playing for this team, they're just a machine. And so I'm actually looking at Minnesota first half. I'm not gonna touch the full game because I think, you mentioned it, there's maybe a potential lack of motivation on Minnesota's part. They're already sitting out two big players. I'm gonna do Minnesota Lynx money line. It's probably minus 115. I'm assuming minus 120 on the money line. Doug, if you could help and look that up for me,
I'm
but
on it.
yeah, I think just their system alone is good enough to win this game. But I'm not gonna touch the game. I like the first half again. Best team in the league for a reason. They still have four of the other starters playing, right? Indiana's been ravaged with injuries. And like I said, they're already in. So it's almost like, yeah, it's either seventh or sixth seed, but I think as long as they're in and healthy, they're not gonna really do any risky moves tonight. So I kind of like Minnesota first half, minus 132 on the screen right there as an official play
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a pretty good look. I think that's clever. I guess my question is why you think they might sit their best players in the second half? Like, what's the rationale for them not the system? Because I don't think the Fever are going to be playing that hard. I really don't. I know they stand to gain to be the 6 seed versus 7, but I think they're in. I think the team will play okay, but I think they're going to give up a lot of points. I agree with the line move too. I agree with the line move to move up to 164 on the total.
Yeah, I mean, so my reasons for Minnesota first half is, just like I mentioned earlier, I think they can plug and play players. Even though the MVP is out, they're going to be able to run their offense. They still have a lot of dynamic, guards that can dribble and get into the paint, and then obviously shooters on the outside. So the Minnesota Lynx, although their true aspirations are to win the entire thing and stay healthy, I think both teams in that second half Indiana's gonna pull back just because there's so much more for them to, potentially lose because they're already, running on fumes from a health perspective.
And they stand to gain because the Valkyries are underdogs, and we're gonna get to that game momentarily, but it's not like, they need a loss that's out that crazy of a game. So for them to, be leaning that, it makes sense. Real quick, Nafisa Collier's out. Sounds like the MVP has slipped through her fingers. Asia Wilson at Bet Rivers, a minus 335 favorite to
Wow.
win fee plus 250. So you and I have been discussing this for a couple months. We thought this was a done deal. How about the MVP in baseball and WNBA? All of them were like minus 1,000 with Otani, Judge, Collier at one point, and now it's completely swung. The both baseball races are much tighter, and now Wilson's a minus 335 favorite at Bet Rivers. I can't believe it, but look, Asia's first in all these categories, and if they end up with the 2 seed, an odds maker told me he thinks that she'll get it. And all the podcasts I'm listening to and everything, it looks like Asia's going to win it. And stunned as I am,
I'm shocked. I haven't looked at the odds for a week, Doug. So this is news to me. I had no idea that this flipped. That's very interesting. I mean, my initial reactions, like utter shock for sure. And Asia's having an unbelievable season. I mean, they've won 14 straight games, right? And potentially, like you mentioned, get that number two seed. But Fee, I mean, she's been doing this the entire season. It wasn't just this
right?
last 3 weeks. So this is very surprising to me. I don't know if it's a sports book pump fake type of thing, but
Well, they don't know. I mean, the sports books don't know, right? Like
yeah.
there's speculation. And again, this MVP race, and this is why it's so fascinating because the WNBA, it's not the NFL or NBA. This is not discussed every day on First Take, right? The odds makers don't really have a pulse of what's being thought out there. They're just kind of going. Now, there's some grumblings, whether it's social media or some WNBA podcast that may or may not have a voter, but this, we don't really know what the, I don't know, tea leaves are saying. So for all we know, the majority of the voters like Fee to win this thing, and they're going to they are going to prioritize the 1 seed and everything else. and she's almost 50-40-90. She's 40, like 39.8% or something from three. So to be the best player on the one seed and arguably the best defensive player, but so is Asia, 50-40-90, and never having won it versus voter fatigue and everything. But what Asia's doing down the stretch, it leaves a more lasting memory. I mean, I guess they're ignoring the first month of the season. I don't know. It's crazy. But feel like this is and Asia passes the smell test, right? She's considered the best player. So, but you're right. I'm surprised. I can't lay the 335 though, just because it's such a soft market.
I feel like there's some I don't know. Maybe you're right. Like maybe the sports books don't know. I mean, if you look at just their stats right now, if Asia plays tonight, right, she's gonna have 7 more games than Fee. I mean,
Right.
it's
And
not
that's another part
insignificant.
of it.
Yeah, that's not insignificant. I mean, 7 games in a 44 game season is a lot. So, wow, I'm still shocked just listening to this, hearing this for the first time.
Well, for so long, it was the one seed, all that, and then the voter fatigue. And then it looks like that voter fatigue is being offset by 14 straight wins, and she's leading the way. And, frankly, the Lynx have done okay without Fee, and that's not the case for the Aces. So maybe that's part of it, the actual literal definition of the phrase most valuable player. But again, odds makers don't really have a clue. Speaking of the Las Vegas Aces, they are in action tonight against the Chicago Sky. This line is now 18, 159, the over under. Now, these two teams just played on Sunday. Angel was suspended the first half because of her comments about the front office and the team, and then she did not play the second half because of a back injury that's kept her out of some games. So it wasn't a total fake injury or anything like that. They lost by 14. It was a commanding first half by the Aces, and then sort of cruise control. No Ariel Atkins here. Vegas is tied with Atlanta for the number 2 seed. If they win their next 2 games, including tonight, Aces will in fact get the 2 seed. It's a big number. But how about the Sky at the end of the year? 1 foot out the door, obviously, with the Angels' comments. They don't even own their first picks. They didn't even care about tanking. And the fact that they've been in Vegas since Saturday, what role does all this play in sort of the handicap, these back-to-back games in the same city?
I lean the aces here. I think it's aces or nothing for me. I think Chicago has more of a 1 foot out the door mentality than Washington, to be honest. Just because they had a little more expectations heading into the season. They have, Angel Reese and all that, but it's hard for me to say I can back a team that's an 18-point favorite. Aces notoriously like they always play with their food, and I always talk about weird fourth quarters in the WNBA. I'm usually talking about Aces games, to be honest. Um,
Yes.
but obviously in the last 14 games, they're on a 14-game winning streak, and they've covered for the majority of those wins. So I'm on aces or nothing at all. Maybe this is kind of like a coronation moment for Asia's fourth MVP as well. So um, no play
Any
for me
props?
here. Yeah, yeah. Maybe, yeah, maybe props. Maybe props. That's a good call.
So HVL, Haley Van Lith is out. So maybe that would normally have helped your aces bet. So her being out maybe hurts your aces bet because she's so bad and not a pro. Uh, by the way, Angel Reese is listed as questionable. She is at shoot around today. So that's hinting towards she might play. I have not been cruising this Las Vegas Strip trying to get an autograph of Angel Reese or Haley Van Lith or anyone. I lean to the Aces and maybe even first half. I every time I bet against the Sky, they shoot 70% from three. So who am I to be jumping on this? But I do think they're going to play somewhat like hard. I don't think they're just going to be like hungover, like Vegas flu, disaster or anything like that. I just don't think they're very good. Now, Melissa Smith is questionable, and not that she's the most pivotal player in the world, but after the Aces lost by 53 points at home to the Lynx, they changed their starting lineup. Smith and Kirsten Bell in the starting lineup, and they've won 14 straight. So it is all part of the combination of everything. And when a team's on a roll, it's certainly worth noting when something is going to be disrupted. But officially, the Aces have something to play for. First half line's 10.5. They win this game and the next, they lock into the 2 seed, or Atlanta loses. That's it's a magic number of 2. for that 2 seed. They are neck and neck with Atlanta. Phoenix is also in the mix, but Phoenix is really in a tough spot in that regard.
What a
Speaking of, I'm sorry,
What
go
a
ahead.
Yeah, what a way to end a season for Chicago, right? They're out of the playoff race. They haven't been, competitive in forever. Angel Reese is talking bad about about our team, but they get to spend the week in Las Vegas and they're 18
Right.
point underdogs. There's no expectations.
Yeah.
What a crazy way to end the season. It's funny.
I should have hit up some friends in the nightclub industry to see if they were out and about, raging. I'm sure they have curfew and things like that, but you never know. You never know. So I said, speaking of that race, so the Mercury are in the mix. Technically, they're still alive for the 2 seed. They're likely going to be the 4 seed. They need to win the final 2 and need the Aces and the Dream to both lose both games. So it's just not going to happen as an 18-point favorite, things like that. Says he likes the Aces first half and first quarter, by the way. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's get back to this Mercury games because they're hosting the Sparks, who have everything to play for. This line's gone from 8 to 7.5. Buck 73 is your over under. Now the Sparks are technically still alive. So there's 9 teams left who have not been eliminated, or really there's 2 teams left for one spot. That's what it is. The Storm and the Sparks. The Sparks playoff positioning, they must win their final 2 games, and Seattle has to lose both games. Now, given it's the Storm, who knows? They may lose both of these games. And Seattle also plays tonight, so they'll tip off in the next one. By the way, the Aces are the second favorite, and I agree with that because they're probably going to end up with the 2 seed, and the Liberty are going to be not even have home court advantage in the first round. Kelsey Plum questionable tonight.
Mm.
Rakia Jackson probable. So this Sparks team knows what's up. The problem is, and this is my concern, because I'm ready. All right, let's break it down. Let's go piece by piece and sort of like instead of putting it all together in one answer, let's chop it up. Given the Sparks are virtually have no chance to get in the playoffs, Kelsey Plum questionable. What do you expect to see from them tonight with their slim playoff chances?
I think you're gonna see a huge body language momentum at halftime because the Seattle game is gonna be happening at the same time. And so if they see Seattle up in that game against the Golden State Valkyries, there's zero chance, right? The Sparks are gonna be in it. So I'm actually gonna pay attention to that and see what the scores are for both games at second half for the second half bet. But to answer your question from a 10,000 foot view, I don't think the Sparks are gonna be super interested. I
I
personally
agree.
think yeah, I personally think Phoenix is gonna show, I mean, they've been the superior team all season long. They've been the deeper team, and I think Phoenix wants to play well heading into the playoffs. They're kinda like the team that no one's talking about. Everyone talks about obviously Fee and Asia and Vegas, but this third team in Phoenix and as well as Atlanta, they're quality teams, and I think they like that role. And Phoenix, if they can continue to play well, and we know Phoenix, right? They're one of those teams where if they're interested and they want to blow out the other team, they have the capabilities to do that. And so I like Phoenix in this one. And if it's if Seattle, like I said earlier, if Seattle is up big against Golden State at halftime, I would I would hammer Phoenix in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Mercury in this game. I love them. My concern is that the line is probably going to come down or go up based on Kelsey Plum's status. So maybe I'm hoping she plays and the line goes to like 6 and then hammer. Like I think the Sparks have just been a farce all season. Okay. They went on that little run, but that run they went on, like we learned that the teams they beat aren't very good. Like they beat Seattle, great, but the Storm have wet the bed all season. So they're just going to get outclassed. We saw them and against Atlanta this week or last week get completely outclassed, lost by 20. Game that second game was down to 5.5 because Alicia Gray was out, but they still got outclassed. This is a team that is not very good. Kelsey Plum's their best player, and she's not good at all. I shouldn't say not good at all, but she's not a quality all star or anything like that. She's not a big name, not a great player. Shoots under 40%, turnovers, too small, and stinks on defense. The whole team is bad at defense. So they do have some nice runs. I like De'Erica Hamby. I really like Rakia Jackson. I think the ceiling's really high. And I think some of these other players off the bench can do some nice things, but they just don't have any resistance defensively. I think the Mercury are going to blow them out. Give me the Mercury for a full unit. I think this is a bounce back spot. Phoenix lost its last game. to the Connecticut Sun. So they basically that took them out of the running for that 2 seed. And I think instead of just saying, "Hey, we're locked into the 4 seed, let's rest, load management," I think they, to your point, Albert, get back on track, wanna push through. So I think it's a banger. I think they blow them out. I think the Sparks team is, just reminds me of that meme with the Succession father saying, you're not serious people." And that's really what I think of when I think of the Sparks. They're not serious. So, I'm going to play the Phoenix as a full unit.
Yeah, I'm gonna tail you on that. I like Phoenix there, so that's the second official play for me on the show. The other thing that I want to talk about is the scheduling aspect, right? Rest advantage. Phoenix has one more day of rest, right, than LA, and they're playing at home. So 7.5 feels a little short. I think they should blow them out by double digits. And to Doug's point, there's gonna definitely be line movement with or without Plum in the lineup. Me being a Phoenix backer, I want Plum in there because that's gonna equate to, easier shots and easier offense for my team for Phoenix. So, I'm hoping she plays tonight.
I mean, she gives up so many points. Also, we know this Sparks team is like overs, like high scoring games. But this last couple weeks, they've been going under a lot because, like maybe they're tightening up, they're playing a little bit better defense. But I can't pull the trigger on the under in this game because I think they're checked out. So honestly, I would play the Sparks team total under, if anything.
Mm.
Um, just because I just think they could really mail it in. And this is the thing with the W, and I don't care if, people call me sexist, what. There's an element of the WNBA has a lack of experience and professional mature however you want. They haven't been here before. This is a new world, new era, new everything. Like the Valkyries were down like 10 the other game, and they're celebrating threes on the bench like it's a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. And they're just not really like understanding the moment. I think the Sparks could just get rolled. Some of these teams just like they're kind of like they're just young and they're kind of inexperienced with the magnitude of everything going on. Whereas I think the Mercury off a loss will be have their lunch pail and bring it to work. Whereas I just think some of these teams are a little bit more predictable in the situational spot. Now, there's a chance that as Ray Stevens just bombs threes and like they shoot really well because they do chuck it quick in the shot clock and the threes are falling, the threes fall. But for the most part, I love Phoenix here. I think it's the right situation too. I do like Sparks under 82 and a half. I mean, this is an offense that's sputtering. They scored, I mean, it's going to be right around there. They're going to probably be in the mid 70s, but there's no reason to force it. But I do think they're going to end up in the mid 70s. But the Mercury just may score so quickly that the Sparks will get some offense going.
Plus, like I said earlier, like check the halftime score because
Right.
LA still does have an ounce, a tiny chance to get into the playoffs. It requires Seattle to lose. So Seattle, if they're gonna be up big against Golden State, I think this game is gonna get really ugly in the second half. You'll see the benches clear for LA. They're not gonna be running anything. They're just gonna be, playing basketball, just trying to stay healthy and getting into the offseason. So I agree with Doug. I think the 7.5 is a good number, and I would actually kind of look at alternate spreads as well. I think Phoenix could potentially
Hmm.
blow this team out.
But I'd grab it because I think the line's going to go up if Plum's ruled out. I think her being questionable and everything just shows you that they kind of the writing's on the wall. Like they know they're not getting into the playoffs. Like they had their chances, they blew it, um, and they know that they're not going to win the next 2 games and get Seattle to lose both games. It's just not happening. If it was like we need to win tonight and they need to lose tonight, then fine. I can see it being attainable in their eyes, but I don't. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think that's going to be now, to your point, maybe they're better without Plum in certain ways. I don't think they are overall, but maybe in certain ways they would be. But we'll come back to this because I think we're gonna come back on this. Let's go to the Storm game because the Storm need to win. Their magic number's 1. So they have 2 games left. Sparks have 2 games left, right? The only way the Sparks get to the playoffs is a 4-leg parlay. They win both as a dog and whatnot. But the Storm can punch their ticket 6.5 hosting the Valkyries. Now, the Valkyries still have stuff to play for. They're the current 6th seed. They can climb to the 5 seed. Um, so it's unlikely, though. Zandolsini's still questionable. The Valkyries, I don't think they're gonna be buttoned up. Seattle needs to win or get some help. 6.5 feels right. I do lean Seattle here, but they've just under-delivered all year, and they've been bad at home.
I think it feels a little trappy. I think Seattle's gonna win, but I'm not fully confident they're gonna cover, right? I see like a Valkyries last second three, and it's like a 5-point game or something like that. So I'm definitely gonna stay away from this. I think Seattle does take care of business and win. I just don't know if they can win by more than two possessions. And Seattle is such a fade for me in general, right? And I think they made a good move at the trade deadline, but from an ATS perspective, they've just been horrible. They haven't been able to close out games, which is what is the most surprising for me.
Ugh.
They have a lot of professionals on, like, really good players on this team, but for some reason, they can't execute down the stretch. They miss a bunch of free throws, and they give up, wide open layups after they make a free throw. So, um, stay away from me. The way I read it is Seattle will win but not cover.
I got a banger for you. Can I interest you in a money line parlay?
Okay, let's hear it.
Seattle, Phoenix, right? We just talked about the Mercury's probably gonna roll them,
Mhm.
and then the Aces, who are favored by 18.
What are the
You're
odds
looking
for
at
that?
like -113,
Oh, that's beautiful.
right?
Is that like a 25 unit bomb for you tonight, or what is that?
Well, no, because it involves the Seattle Storm to do something that positive, but you can't bet on them. You can't bet. They're the Brett Favre for my betting. They're the Brett Favre of the WNBA. I can't bet on them and I can't bet against them. Story of
What's
my
the
life back in the
what's the
day.
what's the difference if
So you
you
got a
just
117 parlay.
yeah, what's the difference if you just add the Liberty in that? They're 14-point favorites.
Okay. All right. So you want to get a little frisky. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's a minus 1250. So we do that. Could we dare get plus money? Oh, that's even money right on the nose. Plus 100.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's throw that in there. Plus 101. Look at this. Things are changing here. I like it. I like your style. Now, wouldn't it be the Liberty to lose that game, though?
Very, very Liberty-ish for sure to lose that game.
Because they don't need that game.
They don't need it. They're locked into that seed, and they're gonna rest people in the fourth quarter, let's be honest.
Right. And the Mystics have already, I think, locked in their positioning of, I think, the second best odds in the draft lottery. So I
The
would
thing is,
say,
even though the Liberty, they might mail it in, their 2 stars have been injured all season long, so they might sit them in the fourth quarter, but then that also requires Washington to play well, and we know Washington hasn't played well for a
they've
month and
they've
a
had a couple they've had a couple games where they've showed up a little bit and covered.
half. So it's
So
it's
I
it's
would
very
not do
pick
the
your
Liberty.
poison.
I would not do the Liberty in this. I would not do the Liberty.
You're more confident in Seattle than New York tonight.
Well, no, but if we take out Seattle, then it's gonna be like a
Yeah,
minus 180. No, but I mean, would you rather lay the 170 if you take out the Storm, who are facing a competent Valkyries team, right? And you put in the Liberty, would that make more sense? I mean, obviously you're gonna pay a lot more juice. So that's a basically a minus 200 parlay. It's 220.
wow. That's not my style. I wouldn't. I can
But I
see
mean,
some team blowing that.
Liberty, I still don't trust. Um, Interesting. Somebody's chiming in, so I want to talk about this because this speaks to something that people don't understand. Mr. Wipeout 2008 saying casual parlays, boys, come on, let's be sharp. So at the end of the year, the final week, this is actually when money lines are skewed and things like that. So this is actually when parlays with money lines do have an edge, especially when there's tanking involved. So the last couple weeks is actually when there is line value on certain things because they are way more incentivized with the situation and things along those lines. That's why I don't want to do the Liberty because they don't need to win. So there's more. Now you could argue that, like, for example, if you're an odds maker, you don't like these times of the year because it's too many narratives, it's too much stuff on the line. So this is actually when there's value on money lines. And now there's no Paige Beckers or Caitlin Clark in the draft this year, but the draft lottery odds being implicated now. That's not the case, but last week it was. This is why we've been fading the Mystics. I think 2 weeks ago, Albert, we bet on an adjusted win total for the
Mhm.
Mystics, and I remember you saying on the show that looks like 0-6. So when they had 6 games left, we all thought 0-6. They had 1.5 was the remaining win total. We bet under, and that obviously already cashed with tonight being their final regular season game, and they're 0-5 so far on that 6 game home stretch. So here, I do think there's line value with the Mercury. I think pounding the Mercury money line would be really smart because it's just the market is soft to begin with in the W, and then I think with these situations there is edges to be had. um, I think we were smiling and joking just because the Liberty could be like the fly in the ointment, the one that's a 14.5 point favorite, not like the 6.5. But the Storm, right? Like the Storm have been pretty unreliable all year, so you have to be careful. But this is the Aces aren't losing. I mean, gosh, can you imagine? Like the Liberty may lose as 14.5 points, and we're not even considering the Aces who are 18 point favorite, right? Like that's even though the last year I think the Aces lost to the Chicago Sky as about a 14, 15 point favorite.
But I don't think they had anything to play for in that last game last year, whereas this game, there's still a chance,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
There's still a chance that they can get the number 2 seed, and being the number 2 seed in a potential matchup against the number 1 seed in Minnesota, you want all the, advantages you can get heading into that, potential championship. So, um, I'm not worried about the Aces there.
No.
I still like my Minnesota first half. The more I think about it, that's still gonna be a play for me. And then I'm very confident in Phoenix. So I agree with you. I think the parlay here works. You know me, I'm not a big parlay guy in general, but you make some very good points, especially in a soft market, especially when
Right.
there's incentives for the other side to lose, right? So I think it's a yeah, I like that parlay. It's not a play for me, but it's something that we're gonna cheer together for sure.
Right, and what you were saying, like this year, the Aces, versus opposed when they lost the Sky at home last, they're much more locked in. They're in playoff mode. It's all hands on deck, so to speak. But Melissa Smith is listed as questionable. So a lot of interesting angles for this one. I am going to play that money line though, the minus 117 one. Phoenix, Vegas, and Seattle. I do think the Storm take care of business because I think the Valkyries are not really locked and loaded, and I do think they are missing Xander Lassini. Now, Salon can bomb and some others, and the Storm can get frustrated, but the defense of Seattle is really impressive. I would look at the first half. I think there's gonna be adjustments at halftime. I'm so scared because the Nakase is such a better coach.
Yeah.
She's run circles around people like the Wings last week. They're down like 10 at half, and they won by 6 or something. Like that coach was clueless, the Wings coach. So I wonder if she's gonna run circles here around Seattle, but the Storm just too loaded. Malonga's playing great. I just think they have too much size and too many pieces here. I think Seattle gets it done.
Is she the runaway favorite right now for coach of the year? I'm assuming
She
yes, but
should be. I mean, I understand people. I've listened to a lot of podcasts want to give Klesko his flowers, and that's fine. But there's a difference between acknowledging the nice job he did and saying he should be the second place finisher and actually talking about giving him a first place vote. It should be unanimous. Nakase with the expansion team doing what she's doing. But yes, Klesko probably should finish second. Give him credit where credit is due, but that doesn't mean it's enough to get a first place vote.
is there any conversation for the Aces winning 15 in a row?
And yeah, I mean, Becky Hammond pushed the right buttons, right? Like there should be a conversation for sure. I mean, Cheryl Reeves getting buzz as well, just given how great the season's been and dealing with Fee's injury and but she won it last year. So it's really hard when there's no real like true measure of all this. It's going to be just subjective. Therefore, she'll get consideration. She might get some second place votes. Maybe it'll be one off. But overall, all the voters, it has to go to Nakase.
I would say it's very interesting for those who are betting or just following this league for the first time. There's a huge discrepancy, in my opinion, from the like top 4 or top 5 coaches and then the rest of the league. I know it's a small league and there's very limited number of teams, but the top coach versus the worst coach in this league is like miles apart, and you could see it not only in preparation, not only how they communicate to their players, but X's and O's and adjustments while watching uh, basketball on the screen. Like you could tell a huge difference is black and white to me.
Yeah, and it really was more pronounced in previous years. This year, they've added a lot better coaches. So Klesko, Lynn Roberts, and she's in LA. Really, the only bad coach is the Wings coach. And I think maybe Quinn will be gone in Seattle in near future. Maybe she'll stick around. I mean, look, she's not bad, but she seems to be getting out coached, and this is why the Storms team has been bad down the stretch. But maybe not. Maybe I'm misreading it. But the Wings coach, I'd be surprised if he made it to last year. There's so much video page just looking at him all weird, and he's had horrible plays out of timeouts with the game on the line. He looks pretty clueless. So we'll see how that all unfolds. Maybe he'll get another year. But I do think that the coaching has gotten so much better this year. I like the Sun coach a lot. Um, and we'll see what happens with them. By the way, they play tomorrow, and I'm on the show. So I have a big play on that Sun game tomorrow. So we'll talk about that one. Dream road chalk there in Connecticut. And that's the lone game tomorrow. So, Albert, you are back on Thursday on Hardball. So, Betting Weekly Hardball, that's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I am in with Sarah tomorrow. But, Albert, you and I will be back on Friday at the end of the regular season. The playoff brackets will be set. They start Sunday. We'll look at game ones for Sunday. We'll look at series prices and other futures. So I look forward to chopping it up with the NBA again later this week. But you'll be back on Hardball on Thursday, and I'll be back with Sarah tomorrow for Betting Weekly Fast Break. That's going to do it for this edition. We always appreciate everyone chiming in, and please like and subscribe. We really need that currency in the YouTube world, and go sign up for the newsletter as well. And everyone chiming in the conversation, we always welcome that as well. So for Albert and everyone behind the scenes who does all the heavy lifting to make everything look awesome, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here next time.